My name is Marin Ellery, 54, born with the kind of patience that keeps companies alive and the kind of memory that makes men nervous. For 7 years at Roswell Biologics, I cleaned up other people's shortcuts, patched their missing signatures, and quietly prevented disasters that would have cost millions. Today was supposed to be my last day, a graceful exit, a thank you speech, maybe a cheap sheet cake. Instead, I stood in the boardroom while Evan Roswell, the CEO's son, lounged back in his chair, holding up a greasy KFC drumstick like a trophy. "Come on, Marin," he said, grinning at the executives. "Order fried chicken for everyone, a farewell party for the compliance lady." The room burst into laughter. I didn't. I placed a thick envelope on the table and slid it toward him. "What's this?" he asked, smearing his thumbprint of grease across the seal. "A different kind of delivery," I said. He tore it open, still smirking until the first line caught his eye. Then his grin flickered. He tossed it to the legal rep as if it burned. Paper shuffled. A gasp cut the air. The CEO, Howard Roswell, snatched it from the paralegal's hand. His eyes scanned the header federal court summons compliance custody dispute. The sound in the room changed. It wasn't silence, it was pressure, the kind that bends metal. Howard's voice dropped into a register I had never heard before. "Get my useless son back in here!" "Now!" Evan froze. The laughter evaporated. Somewhere outside, the copier clicked, the only sound left alive. I stood perfectly still. For the first time in years, no one told me to hurry, explain, or fix anything. The paper in his hands did all the explaining. Across the glass wall, my phone buzzed once on the counter, a message from Malik delivered and logged. I looked at the clock, 12:30 sharp, 30 minutes into my last day, and the company had already started to fall. 36 hours earlier, I had still believed I could leave quietly. 7 years at Roswell Biologics had taught me how silence spreads through hallways, through emails, through the way people look down when you pass. I used to be the spine of the lab. That's what Howard Roswell called me back when the FDA nearly shut us down. "You kept us standing." "Marin," he said then, hand on my shoulder. Now his hand was nowhere in sight, and my name had quietly disappeared from the org chart. That morning, I walked into my office and found the new sign already taped to the door, Shared Workspace B. Someone had stripped my nameplate off during the night. I stacked my binders into neat rows, regulatory filings, trial logs, risk assessments, each one built from the same patience I could never seem to give myself. A soft knock came from the doorway. Kendra Pike, head of HR, peeked in. She smiled the way people do when they've rehearsed it too many times. "Marin, do you have a minute? I have exactly 24 hours left," I said. "Take as many as you need." She hesitated. "We're transitioning your role to an external vendor. It's not personal. It's part of the Agility Initiative." "Agility?" I repeated. "Is that what we're calling erasing institutional memory now?" Her smile wavered. "We appreciate everything you've done." I slid a folder across the desk. "You'll need this for your vendor. It's the compliance credential log. Don't lose it." Kendra took it gingerly, like it might stain her fingers. "Evan said legal will handle the transfer. Did legal say that too?" She blinked. "I'm sure they're aligned." "They're not," I said softly. "But they will be." She left without another word. Through the glass, I could see coworkers passing by, avoiding my eyes, clutching coffee cups as if I carried contagion. When the clock hit 5, I shut my laptop and stood alone in the humming quiet. Somewhere in that building were 7 years of systems only I knew how to keep alive. And tomorrow, they'd try to run them without me. The thought didn't hurt. It just felt inevitable. Evan Roswell entered my life the same way most problems do, smiling, overconfident, and armed with a title he hadn't earned, Director of Innovation Strategy. His sneakers cost more than my first car, and he never stopped talking about disruption. The first morning he joined our compliance meeting, he arrived 10 minutes late, coffee in one hand, sunglasses still on indoors. "Sorry, traffic," he said. But I figured compliance can't start without me. Right. I closed my notebook slowly. We've managed for 7 years, but welcome. He grinned, sat down across from me, and tapped a pen against his cup. So, I've been thinking, these quarterly risk assessments, can we, simplify them? Make them more vibe forward? The room stayed silent. Malik from IT bit the inside of his cheek. Vibe forward, I asked. Yeah. Evan said, less bureaucratic, more intuitive. People hate paperwork. It kills creativity. Federal regulators prefer accuracy to creativity. I said. He laughed like it was a compliment. You're funny. Marin, my dad said you'd be the tough one. When the meeting ended, he leaned closer. No hard feelings if I change a few things. Right? I want us to be agile. I smiled. Change whatever you like. Evan, just be sure to sign for it. He signed the form without reading it. Later that afternoon, Malik slipped into my office. He just deleted the audit logs folder, said it looked cluttered. Did you back it up, I asked. Always. Good. I said, keep doing that. The next day, Evan breezed past my desk, holding a whiteboard marker like a wand. We're rebranding the department, he announced. Compliance sounds boring. I'm thinking trust architecture. Cleaner. Right. I typed the phrase into my notes and added a timestamp. Meeting with Evan Roswell, 9:22 a.m. Proposed name change, trust architecture, rationale optics. He noticed me typing. You document everything. Huh. It's what keeps the company legal, I said. He winked. And here I thought it was me keeping us cool. I watched him walk away, the sound of his sneakers fading down the hall. Malik appeared in the doorway again, shaking his head. Prince of shortcuts, he muttered. Let him rule, I said quietly, closing my notebook. Every kingdom keeps its own records. On Monday morning, my badge blinked red at the security gate. The guard tried twice, then shrugged. Looks like your access got cut early. Inside, Malik met me by the elevators, whispering. It didn't do that. Must have come from upstairs. My stomach stayed calm. After years of patching other people's mistakes, panic had burned out of me. I walked up to my office anyway. The screen greeted me with a login error, credentials disabled. That was when I checked the Federal Registry. My name was still listed as the active compliance custodian for Roswell Biologics. Legally, I was still responsible for every file they touched. No transfer forms, no reassignment notice, nothing. I opened a new email to Legal Roswell Bio. Subject Federal License Custody, required transfer process. I wrote, I'm available to train Evan's team and hand off the systems properly. Please confirm a date before the license renewal window closes. I reread it twice. Calm and professional, then hit send. No reply. By mid-afternoon, Malik appeared in my doorway. You should see what Evan's doing. He led me to the shared drive. Whole folders, years of protocols, audit trails, sign-off logs were gone. He said they were legacy clutter, Malik muttered, wanted to make room for branded content. He deleted the archive, I asked. Yep, 2 terabytes worth. I pulled a mirror copy last week, but still. He leaned closer. They're playing Jenga with the foundation. Marin, Evan's voice echoed from down the hall, upbeat, oblivious. Guys, we're simplifying the workflow. Less red tape. More trust. I stood there for a long moment, watching him rearrange the company's backbone like furniture. The people around him laughed, eager to survive his confidence. Back at my desk, I drafted another message, this time to HR and legal together for audit protection. Please confirm compliance chain of custody status. I remain the registered custodian until formal reassignment. I hit send again. No ping came back, just silence. The kind of silence that waits for gravity to do its work. The night before my resignation. Raleigh was quiet in that uneasy way cities get before a storm. I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of binders and cold coffee. My cat, Finch, slept on the top file like a paperweight with fur. The lamp threw a tired glow across pages stamped confidential federal custody records. I dialed Lena. She answered on the second ring. "You sound wired," she said. "They're dismantling federal systems with 0 transfer forms." I replied, "I've emailed, called, logged tickets. Nothing. You still the listed custodian." "Yes." "Then it's not just sloppy, it's dangerous." She paused long enough for me to hear her pen click. "Marin, you don't argue with arrogance," she said. "You document it. Every word, every date. Let the paper do the talking." I opened a new document. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. Draft Federal Court Wake County Division. Petitioner Marin Ellery. Respondent Roswell Biologics, Inc. Relief sought preservation order and temporary injunction regarding federal license chain of custody. Lena spoke as I typed. "You're not burning bridges. You're making sure they don't burn evidence." My hands didn't shake. I'd spent my whole career watching people cut corners. This was just the first time I decided not to stop them. I printed the pages, one after another, until the air smelled like toner and resolve. When I was done, I signed my name with the same black pen I used for audit approvals. The courthouse timestamped the filing at 10:47 the next morning. By law, the summons had to be delivered within 72 hours. I ordered 3 certified copies, one for Lena, one for the court, and one I slid into a heavy cream envelope marked in neat handwriting, "Delivery Final Day." Finch lifted his head when I sealed it, eyes half open, unimpressed. "Don't look at me like that," I told him. "Some people leave farewell cards. I leave documentation." He blinked once and went back to sleep. Outside, thunder rolled low across the skyline. I set the envelope beside my keys and turned off the light. 2 days left. My last day began with an email from HR titled "Celebrating Transitions," complete with confetti emojis and a reminder to bring your positive energy. I had none left to bring. I packed my coffee mug, a photo of Finch, and the envelope I'd sealed 2 nights earlier. When I reached my desk, Malik was already there. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "I'm just delivering paperwork," I said. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "They won't see it coming." At noon, the office gathered in the open area. Evan appeared, as loud as ever. Sleeves rolled, voice bright enough to make the air thinner. "Hey everyone, let's send Marin off properly. Order some fried chicken extra crispy." My treat. People clapped like he'd donated an organ. I smiled, polite, and said, "Already handled." HR rolled out a paper banner that read, "Good luck, Marin." Someone started a playlist. Evan leaned on the conference table, drumstick in hand, grease shining on his wristwatch. "See good vibes only," he said. "No need to make this serious." I placed the envelope on the table beside the chicken bucket. "Just one last document for legal." He glanced at it. "Bored. More of your endless forms." Something like that. He picked it up, waved it like a napkin, then tossed it toward the legal intern. "Here, make yourself useful." Laughter rippled through the room, the kind that never quite reaches the eyes. I stood perfectly still. The intern slit the seal with a pen, across the room. Malik's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked up at me. Our eyes met. He mouthed, "They're opening it." Evan raised his cup of soda in a mock toast. To compliance, the invisible hero behind him, the legal rep, froze mid-bite, reading the first line. Papers shifted. The HR banner fluttered as someone turned off the music. Evan frowned. "What's wrong?" No one answered. Howard Roswell had just walked in. He took the document from legal's trembling hands, scanned the header, and his face went white. The silence that followed didn't feel like victory. It felt like impact, sudden, heavy, irreversible. Howard Roswell burst into the conference room like a storm in a tailored suit. The document trembled in his hand as he read the heading aloud. "Federal Court Summons Compliance Custody Dispute." The chatter died instantly. Evan leaned back in his chair, still chewing. "Dad, relax." She's bluffing. Howard's voice cracked like a whip. Bluffing. You signed off on this garbage without a single legal transfer form. Do you have any idea what you've done? Evan wiped his fingers on a napkin. It's just paperwork. She's overreacting. You said yourself compliance slows us down. Compliance, Howard said, voice low and shaking, is what keeps the government from shutting our doors. He turned to the legal team. Tell me this is a misunderstanding. The paralegal swallowed hard. Sir, we checked the Federal Registry after she left the room. Her name is still listed as the active license custodian. Evan laughed weakly. No way. That's impossible. Across the room, Malik stood in the doorway, phone in hand. Not impossible, he said quietly, confirmed through the registry portal. She's right. The CEO's eyes darted to me. Marin, you're still the custodian of record. I nodded once, because no one filed the reassignment. I offered to train your son's team 3 times. I have the emails. Evan slammed his hand on the table. You're making this dramatic on purpose. I met his glare. I document everything. Evan, drama isn't required. Howard's face drained of color. He sank into a chair, reading each page again as if the words might rearrange themselves. This summons goes public in 72 hours, he muttered. Investors will see it. Partners will see it. Evan looked from his father to me, his confidence cracking. You could have warned me. I did. I said. You didn't listen. The room stayed silent long enough for the hum of the overhead lights to fill it. Then Howard's voice cut through, quiet but lethal. Get my son back in here, he said to no one in particular. And this time, make him read every line he just signed. By sundown, Roswell Biologics had turned into a pressure cooker. The blinds were closed, the lights too bright, and the air smelled like fear. I sat in my nearly empty office while legal scrambled down the hallway, whispering words like injunction, breach, exposure. Malik texted. They pulled an all-nighter war room, Conference B. No one's gone home. From my doorway, I could see Kendra from HR pacing with her laptop pressed to her chest. We need to locate every memo mentioning Marin's transition, she hissed into her phone. Delete everything, immediately. Evan's voice carried from the glass room across the floor, raw and rising. You're telling me this minor paperwork issue could freeze the entire pipeline? Not could, the paralegal said. Will? Howard Roswell was silent, arms crossed, jaw clenched like he was holding the whole building together through sheer force. The phone on the table blinked red with investor calls. I stayed where I was. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I opened my laptop one last time and drafted a short message to the executive distribution list. Subject chain of custody confirmation body. I warned you 3 times to reassign custody. Please direct all further communication through counsel. Then I hit send. Minutes later, my phone rang. Evan's voice cracked through the receiver. Marin, my father's going to kill me. You have to fix this. I kept my tone even. I don't work there anymore. You don't understand our trials are frozen. The lawyers are losing it. Investors are calling me nonstop. I do understand, I said quietly. That's why I sent the emails. You ignored every one of them. He exhaled sharply, like the air had been punched out of him. You're really just going to watch this happen. I'm going to sleep, I said. The rest is your responsibility now. Silence filled the line thick, stunned, and final. When I hung up, I turned off the desk lamp, leaving the office in shadows. Down the hall, someone shouted about timestamps and subpoenas. I picked up my bag, locked the door behind me, and let the noise fade. By morning, the crisis had settled into exhaustion. Malik called before 8. They're pulling the board in early, he said. Howard wants you there. Legal says you're the only one who can calm the regulators. I took a breath, tied my hair back, and told him, I'll bring my attorney. When I walked into the boardroom, Howard Roswell looked 20 years older. The table was covered in half-drunk coffee cups, printed drafts, and red-lined statements. Evan sat 2 chairs down, eyes hollow. Howard didn't stand. Marin, he said, we need to negotiate terms. Lena arrived a moment later, crisp and unreadable. She set her briefcase on the table. My client's terms are straightforward, she said. 1 formal written apology for wrongful termination. 2 financial settlement equivalent to her annual salary times 3. 3 a license agreement acknowledging her authorship of the company's compliance framework. The CFO cleared his throat. That framework belongs to Roswell Biologics. Lena smiled faintly. Then you should have transferred it properly. You didn't. Howard rubbed his temples. You're asking us to admit fault publicly. I'm asking you to tell the truth. I said. You built your company on my documentation. I don't want revenge. Howard, I want the record corrected. Across the table. Evan's voice cracked. She's right. Everyone turned to him. I ignored her emails. I deleted her files. I thought he stopped, swallowed hard. I thought I could fix it later. For the first time, Howard looked at his son like he was seeing him clearly. Later doesn't exist in compliance, he said quietly. Silence hung over the room until Howard finally spoke. We'll sign. By noon. The documents were executed, initials scrawled at the bottom of every page. Lena closed her case and nodded to me. As I stood, Howard extended his hand. You kept the company alive longer than I deserved, he said. I took it once, briefly. Now you'll have the paperwork to prove it. Then I turned, leaving the boardroom as the pens dried behind me. By the time I left the building, Raleigh's winter sunlight had turned sharp and clean, the kind that makes glass look honest. I didn't look back at Roswell Biologics. The deal was done, the signatures dry, the apology written in language as careful as the lies that came before it. I drove without music, just the hum of the engine and the low rhythm of traffic. My phone buzzed 3 times before I answered. It was Lena. You did it, she said. We did it, I replied. You're officially free of them. What are you going to do now? I glanced at the passenger seat. The envelope with my copy of the agreement sat there, heavy and final. Probably eat, I said. Something that isn't corporate flavored. I parked downtown, at a cafe I'd always passed, but never had time to visit. The waitress set down a plate of roasted chicken and coffee that actually tasted like coffee. No speeches, no noise, just the sound of cutlery and breathing. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then swiped to answer. Ms. Ellery, a man's voice said. This is Dr. Vance from Cinera Biotech. We heard about your case through the compliance board. We're looking for a consultant, someone who builds things that don't collapse under ego. I smiled. That's a specific qualification. Interested, he asked. I'll think about it, I said, and meant it. After he hung up, I folded the napkin over the call sheet and let my hand rest on it for a moment. Finch would be waiting at home, probably sitting on a stack of documents I no longer needed. Outside, the sky was the color of fresh paper. I paid the bill, tucked the receipt into my pocket, and stood to leave. As I stepped onto Fayetteville Street, the wind caught my hair and carried the faint smell of fried food from somewhere nearby. Grease, laughter, oblivion. For once, I didn't flinch. This time, I whispered to myself, I'll choose who I serve.